So Moneyhub Enterprise is commercially focused on the enterprise market. We do have a direct-to-consumer and grew up really as a PFM, but I guess have always been open finance because we obviously started life screen scraping. And you don't just screen scrape the CMA9, you screen scrape everything. So we're really pleased recently with March 14th with all the credit cards that have shifted over. That's amazing because that is a large chunk of people's spending. So you get now just the CMA9 and all the credit cards, which does actually end up being 74 different connections. And I think we shouldn't underestimate, that it takes some time and effort to get from where we have been and to where we are now. So that's brilliant. But it can't stop there. So, for example, the use cases, you talk about the use cases, Newbury Building Society, a little building society that really provides the consumers its services with a really niche product. So teachers that wouldn't ordinarily get a mortgage from the CMA9 will get a mortgage from Newbury Building Society. And that's because they still do their own credit underwriting and they can provide niche mortgages and products. But what happens to poor Newbury Building Society in this fast-paced world? Well, unless they can keep up, they're going to be out of business. So being able to provide them with an open finance platform so that their customers can use any open banking account that they've got connected, right through to making payments into the mortgage and through to their savings accounts, that really, I think, starts to bring to life why open finance is so important. And that's without mentioning the pension dashboard. So I'm on the industry steering group for the pension dashboard. I'm a FinTech representative, but really I see myself as a consumer champion. I get upset that there's 38 million pounds sitting with no home. People that have saved that money in the UK and we can't find who to give it to. I know there's a few takers probably here around the table. We'd be putting our hand up. But at the end of the day, it's very sad that we auto-enroll people into pensions and we get to the other end and we find we cannot link them up to the money that they've earned. So I feel very passionate and strong about open finance addressing some of these issues. First of all, fundamentally, it stops the siloed thinking. So we in financial services are, even if you look at the way banks are structured, everything is about a silo, like a cash ISA, investment ISA, a mortgage. They're different departments, almost different companies. And for a consumer, that isn't right. It might be right for financial services to focus on the product offering, but for a consumer, the only way you can make an informed decision is to see all of what you've got going in terms of your incoming and outgoings and your money, and that fundamentally shifts from, it's got to include your mortgage, it's got to include or your rent, it's got to include the products and services that you're buying on a regular basis, the utilities that you have to have. Electricity is essential probably as a bank account. I don't think any of us would be on this call without, the power to service it all. So I don't think we can think in silos anymore. Got to think as an open finance for the consumer. But what does it enable? Well, it starts to allow you to be able to see everything in a way that you can decide who you want to interact with, who you're willing to share your data with. And we've got a lot of use cases now, that are already up and running. So I get really cross when people say open banking hasn't worked. It is early days. I would definitely agree with people on that front. But already, we are seeing the ability for, take Mercer's and Aon already moving into financial wellness for employers to provide to their employees. Aon has an amazing benefits matching service now, which is enabled through open banking. And Mercer's have provided an amazing service to their employers with their master trust to help people understand their pension in the context of their day-to-day finances. So, we're already seeing a big shift that way. But I guess what we haven't seen and what's coming is really the retailers. And that's the bit that I think, we are not far off. But some of the use cases that we haven't seen yet that we will see with open finance is, for example, take Shell. I don't know how many of you have got Shell BP app on your phone, but I don't go to anyone else apart from Shell and BP anymore because I don't want to get out of my car. I'm Australian. I don't queue, so therefore, going into that's perfect. But the thing is, they're not using PISP yet. So they've got my credit card sitting underneath that to take the money. that's gone. I mean, it's not going to be long before that's out the door. They'll definitely use faster payments. And on top of that, why not, while I'm filling my car up, do a little bit of analysis on my energy and media subscriptions? I mean, I don't care who sees that. I'd share that with anyone. If you think you can do me a better deal or you've got some other options for me to consider. I get back on my car and Shell says, well, we can see that you only spend £25 of your £100 a month with us. Knock yourself out. If you can do the whole lot, we're going to give you, I don't know, entries to, view cinemas or whatever it is that they think is going to tickle your fancy, because basically they've done all the customer research they need to do and they're away. And who isn't going to sign up for that type of thing? I go home to my family, say everyone Shell only, right? Because we get free whatever it is they're getting. It's easy. I just think we haven't really seen the power of open banking and open finance yet, but it's so close. We all know that the advice market is, the face-to-face advice market is quite contained in that it can only service a certain amount. And I guess what I would like to add to Brad's comment about the open finance and the advice market is how powerful open finance can be in technology to enabling that advice to go way further, way deeper, because that's going to make the whole advice and interaction with the consumer much more efficient, and genuinely be able to give what has traditionally been at a very high level in terms of the wealth industry, right back down to the mass market. And I think, to Brad's point, we shouldn't underestimate. It's something like 77% of the market at the moment would like advice but can't get it. And I think open finance and technology combined enables this hybrid of the wealth industry to really service the community, which they want to service, but have found it very tricky to do to date. We, obviously, with Moneyhub, have been servicing a group of consumers that have been screen scraping until recently. So we had to migrate them over to open banking. And I don't know how many people in this kind of webinar would be shocked to hear that we've had quite a few requests from our consumers to go back to screen scraping. And the reason they want to go back is not because that they're upset about the link and the direct link that the open banking API gives them, but because basically they don't like the multi-factor authentication with some of the scenarios that are in place, and they don't want to have to reauthorize every 3 months. So they're like, well, I didn't have to do that before, and I've been doing this for years, and I'm all happy. And so when you explain to them, well, A, it's illegal, so you can't screen scrape anymore, so you're not going to do that. We've got to do open banking. That's all there is to it, and it's much better, and all the rest. You can tell that then they're not 100% convinced. So I'd just like to put the consumer in the ring here and say that the consumers, once their trust is there and they're comfortable with who they're sharing or consenting to give that data to, that they're really wanting the convenience factor to kick in then. So I think we have got to crack that. And on my pension dashboard mode, one of the things I did say to them is, if you use that government ID to get into the pension dashboard, then there's no point any of us doing a pension dashboard, because no one's going to get in. So forget that. So we've got to find, and I'm not the person to do that, but I'm sure there are people in this panel that can do that. But do not set something up that creates such a high barrier for security that means that just no one can do it.